Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside Sports on LCTV 66. I'm Eric May, along with Nick Dianastasis, back together again after the summer off. How you doing?
We're pretty good. How you been?
Good, good. Quite busy. A lot has happened since we last spoke, and I know you being a Phillies fan must have been quite excited about the Phillies and what they did late in the season and making the postseason.
It's amazing how they got hot in the playoffs. During a regular season, they had a pretty good year. They're like 12 games over 500. Pretty good year. Not better than some of their teams did record-wise. They didn't go to the World Series.
Well,
Better winning percentage. But they put together a hat, the Phillies, in the playoffs, except for not winning the World Series, of course.
so I guess really the turning point for the Phillies would have been firing Joe Girardi
Right.
and then bringing in Rob Thompson. And that just
Yeah.
was a culture change for the Phillies, and that seemed to be a spark for them.
And at the time, I don't know if it was just a good idea they would fire Joe Girardi because, he won a World Series back with the Yankees against the Phillies in 2009.
Yeah. Well, rumor is that he just didn't have control of the locker room. I don't know if there was respect on both sides. A lot of things weren't going right, so the Phillies decided to pull the plug. And
Yeah.
you know what? In hindsight, that might have been the best thing for the Phillies.
It turned out the best thing ever happened to the Phillies. They got this Rob Thompson interim manager. Turned out now he's a permanent manager for 2 more years. Gave him a new contract, a couple more years. That's nice. They rewarded him.
And now that they reached the playoffs, the bar has been set higher for them for 2023. But let's just kind of recap. They got, of course, the playoffs were expanded this year, and they got in on the last playoff spot.
Right.
But I don't think to any surprise they beat St. Louis in that first round. Won both games, so it was basically a sweep in that series. Did that surprise you?
You mean the sweep they had against
Against the Cardinals.
I guess it was a little bit of a surprise because I knew it wouldn't be easy for Phillies to try and win 2 straight, 2-0 in St. Louis, but they did it the hard way. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, the Cardinals had that pretty good. Albert Pujols, what a great player he was. He went out in style. 703 career home runs. Only 3 other guys have hit over 7 home runs. Of course, Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth. And of course, now him, Albert Pujols, 703. Yeah.
And then Molina retiring at the same time. So it looks like
Yeah.
those two are going to go into the Hall at the same time. And I think sentimentally, I think people were rooting for the Cardinals. They wanted to see how far they could go with these 2 guys, knowing that this was going to be it for them.
Right. It's understandable. Sure, absolutely.
But
yeah.
It was 2 games and out for the Cardinals against the Phillies. Then they go on to play the Braves. And I think maybe this is when, at that point, they started to turn heads.
Yeah.
The fact that they won 3 out of 4 against Atlanta.
I was amazed how they could do that. I knew it would be a hard task. The Braves, of course, the defending world champions last year, win the World Series over the Astros.
Well, and you look at it too. To win Game 1, which they did, they won 7-6. That's huge. To get a leg up in that series. Now they did get shut out in Game 2, but then they came back and put a thumping on the Braves in Game 3, and then clinched it in Game 4 with an 8-3 win. So. I think at that point then maybe people started to take them seriously. Then they go on to San Diego. And I think this is another team that people were kind of penciling in as far as a World Series favorite. Phillies got a shutout in Game 1. San Diego comes back to take Game 2, and it just kind of flip-flop, and then the Phillies win the last 3 games of that series. Obviously turmoil with the Padres. You had a suspension,
Right.
that kind of took the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
But here they go and trade for Soto, and they think, okay, this is the missing piece. That's going to put us to the World Series. First of all, what did you think of that trade as far as the Padres acquiring Juan Soto?
It looked like it'd be a pretty good deal. But he's actually had a really good major career overall. And he was the kind of maybe could take him further in the playoffs. Juan Soto from the Reds, they got him in trade, right?
Well, from Nationals.
From the Nationals, excuse me.
Yeah.
Washington
Again,
Nationals.
with Fernando Tatis, I mean, this was supposed to be their big superstar. Now he got that suspension, could not play in the postseason. Now I'm even seeing that the Padres might be even interested in moving him, possibly. What do you think of that? Do you think the Padres would do that?
Well, because of the position, they may have no choice, and maybe to try and trade him. Another team might be interested in acquiring him. So they get a fresh start with another player to replace him, he get a fresh start somewhere else.
That's a huge contract somebody would have to take
I know,
on.
that's the only problem with that, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's why some of these guys shouldn't be signed to long-term, huge contracts for so many years. And, oh my gosh, what kind of money they get paid to some of these guys. Too much money.
Yeah, well, just wait. Just wait. So, all right, so then they beat the Padres, so now it's on to the World Series. Now it's for all the marbles. And, you look at it, game one, Phillies win the first game in extra innings. Houston comes back to win game two. And it just kind of went back and forth. So the series, Phillies are up 2-1, and then the Astros go on that 3-game win streak and finish off the series. But
Right.
what'd you take out of the World Series as far as the Phillies is concerned?
They just, for some reason, didn't quite have enough good pitching down the road and deep in the bullpen like the Astros had. The Astros had more timely hitting the last 3 games to knock the Phillies out, unfortunately. It's one of those things that happened. The Astros also had experience being in the World Series the year before. Dusty Baker, a great manager, you know what he is, an outstanding manager. Good guy, pretty good major league player in his career as well, in his own right.
And that World Series title always had eluded him.
Right.
As an outsider, not being a Phillies fan, I think that World Series was pretty much their season in a nutshell.
Right.
Either they knock the cover off the ball or they can't hit it at all. And in fact, they did get no hit in game 3, losing 7-0. Or was that game 4? No, I think it was game 4 that they were no hit. So, it just seemed like it was one thing or the other as far as the Phillies, feast or famine, and it came up short. But now we move on to the postseason. Now it's like, okay, what do teams do to get better? Who gets traded? Who gets released? Who retires? Who do they sign as free agents? Phillies now have landed Trey Turner. 11 years, $300 million. On top of the lifetime contract it seems that they gave to Bryce Harper. As a Phillies fan, what do you think of that?
It's nice they could acquire him and everything, pay him good big bucks. It's fine, but he got paid a little too much money for too many years, like Bryce Harper got paid for too many years to play the Phillies and too much money.
When I hear contracts,
Especially when
like
guys
that,
get hurt, they have to have surgery.
Exactly. The first thing that pops into my mind is Ryan Howard.
Right.
They gave that 5-year contract.
Right.
$125 million, and then he gets injured and is never the same again.
Right.
The Phillies are tied into him for that period of time.
Right.
I mean, the same thing could happen here with Turner and Harper. And Harper, of course, is going to be out, and you're saying it's going to be till the All-Star break?
From what I heard, there's a good chance that was a rumor I heard. He might get a bit return to the Phillies lineup, Bryce Harper, to the All-Star break, because his type of surgery is very similar to, they say, to Tommy John surgery.
Okay.
What they say.
All right, so that's a huge signing for the Phillies. Do you see the Phillies making any other blockbuster or head-spinning free agent signing, or do you feel the Phillies are going to make a trade?
I think the Phillies got to do one of two things. Either make a trade, you don't have to give up too much, so they get 1 or 2 really good starting pitchers that are really quality starting pitchers. They aren't 35 to 40 years old. Get guys like
the Mets do.
between 25 and 35. Get quality starting pitchers that can last a while. They'll be healthy for the most part, hardly ever get hurt, and good consistent pitchers are what they need. But they have to pay them an outrageous amount of money, though. That's the only thing. Pay them a lot of money, that's fine, but not to what these guys get paid to play. A little too much. Some of these other guys, other teams.
This is the going rate in Major League Baseball, though, right now.
Right. The
Just
business of baseball is a huge business.
Huge contracts. Now, the Phillies do have 2 pitchers they'll need to replace. Kyle Gibson signed with the Orioles, and Zach Eflin went to Tampa.
Right.
So there's 2 spots that they're going to need to fill. So, of course, the winter meetings are the time that guys start to rub elbows and talk about potential trades, and that's when the free agent signings happen. But the one thing that again, as an outsider, what do you do about Reese Hoskins? Do you keep him or do you trade him? As again, an outsider, inconsistent bat, real question mark, I think, liability-wise, defensively. He'll come up with some great plays, but then just some real costly errors. Would you trade Reese Hoskins or do you keep him?
I think Reese Hoskins, it might be best to trade another team where he can be a starter right away, get a fresh start somewhere else, another franchise.
So you're ready to pull the plug on Reese Hoskins?
I'd say trade him another team that can make him a starting player, in the very near future to get a fresh start. He's a good overall player, right? Sure, absolutely he is. He got
First
a lot of hits
baseman
to fill.
or is it
RBIs,
DH?
hits.
First baseman or DH?
I'd say, well, Reese Hoskins could help them their team mostly as a DH more than anything, and also some occasionally games at first base they could put him as well. Another major league club trade him to get a fresh start somewhere else.
All right, real quick. And unfortunately, I could not find the National League sheet, but I have your picks from the spring, and you had in the American League the Yankees winning the East, the White Sox in the Central, and the Angels in the West. And the wild card was Boston and Tampa. You got the Yankees. And then you had the World Series. You had Atlanta being Tampa Bay.
Right.
So,
there were some big upsets. There were.
Yeah, because I think you had, again, I'm going off memory. I think you had Colorado winning the West.
Right. Yeah.
And Atlanta winning the East.
Right.
I can't remember who you said winning the Central, but again, you never know.
Right.
Injuries, trades.
Right. You know what can happen when
guys
you're
that
next
have
one to
career
the
years,
next. Right.
guys that have
Yeah.
horrible years.
Right.
But so we'll do that again next year, and I'll have to make sure I keep the sheet to talk
sure,
about
absolutely.
at the end of the year.
That'd
All
be
right.
great.
We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to dive into the college football playoffs and hit the tail end of the NFL and get some postseason predictions.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll return more Inside Sports here on LCTV 66.
LCTV 66 is your community channel, and your donations keep us on the air and help to produce more local programs. Send your tax-deductible donation of $500, $100, or more to the address on the screen. Or think of it this way. For the price of a couple of movie tickets, you can help support your community channel. Send what you can and be a part of all that is good about Lancaster County. Thank you for your tax-deductible donation to LCTV 66, Lancaster's Connection.
Welcome back to Inside Sports here on LCTV 66. Eric May and Nick Dianastasis. Thanks for joining us. All right, Nick, college football playoffs coming up, and the Final Four is finally in place, although Nick Saban was trying to plead his case to the NCAA that Alabama deserves to be in it, but they said, nope, with 2 losses, you're out. So the Final Four is set. So I want to get your prediction. Here we go. And both these games are going to be on New Year's Eve. Ohio State comes in at number 4, looking for their first title since 2014. They're going to take on Georgia, the defending champs. They are at number 1. Who wins?
Well, that's a good question. I can see why Georgia's a big favorite to win it. They're defending national champions from last year. They're a loaded, great elite football team, which they are. For Ohio State to have a chance to win it, they just have a lot less mistakes against Georgia than they had against Michigan. If they do that, a lot less penalties and not turn a ball over, things like that, and just keep it close with 7-10 point deficit at halftime, maybe 13 points at most. Maybe they might come back and pull off a miracle upset over Georgia, maybe in regulation or overtime. Maybe it has to be a very high scoring game for them to win against Georgia. I really have to score a lot of points. A lot of points.
So you are, and again, I don't go off of point spreads and stuff like that. This is just pick it. Ohio State or Georgia?
Well, I'm gonna say, let's see. Okay, that's a tough one, kind of. Yeah, I'm trying to Get that? I'm gonna if it goes overtime, I'll pick Ohio State to win by just 3 points. I say 45-42.
Wow, so
It's
an
the only
upset.
the only way they can win. They got to score a lot of points. They got to
Okay.
really be focused, not make many mistakes.
Wow, so the Buckeyes
The
pull
hard
up.
way. Gotta win the hard way.
Okay, all right. All right, so then the other matchup is number 2 Michigan, who's looking for their first championship since '97. It's been that long. It's been even longer for TCU, 1938. So is it an Ohio State-Michigan national championship game, or is it Ohio State-TCU?
Well, I tell you, for TCU to beat Michigan, they really got to study the defense. Great team Michigan has shutting teams down all year. They really got to focus on that game film more than anything. If TCU does that, makes very minimal mistakes, TCU you might be able to pull off that miracle upset. I'll say maybe like 42-35, something like that.
So you're saying
In OT.
TCU in an upset there?
Yeah.
Wow, you're living on the edge. All right. So that would put Ohio State and TCU, number 3 and 4, in the championship game, January 9th at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. One more prediction. If it's TCU and Ohio State, who's the national champs?
I think that'd be another it would be another high-scoring game if it's meant to happen that way, only if it is. I just, of course, got to beat Georgia first. Not an easy task to do.
Right.
Georgia's an elite, great team that's defending national champs from last year. Powerful program, great program. And TCU's a great program. And what they've done is Sonny Dykes, first year coach at TCU, took them out of nowhere. Look, it's amazing what he's done. He inherited a pretty good, talented team from Gary Patterson, who's let go, who actually put TCU football on the map for a number of years, Gary Patterson, before TCU let him go. But Sonny Dykes, he's doing an outstanding job at TCU. If he expects to have a chance to beat Michigan in that game, they're going to have to, make very minimal mistakes, study the game films hard, and they would have to score, a lot of points. Michigan's a great all-around team. They do it all well. Michigan, special teams, defense, everything.
Okay.
Quarterback, everything, wide receiver, all that stuff.
But you have TCU and Ohio State in the championship game. So if those two get there, based on your prediction, who wins between TCU and Ohio State?
Only if they can both really go out and play loose and not make many mistakes against two great teams like Michigan and Georgia.
Okay. But if this
doesn't mean they're going to win, they'll have a great chance to win.
Right. But if it comes down to this, and it is TCU and Ohio State, who wins it?
That's a good question. That's a hard one because TCU's been really outstanding all year in their own right, as well as Ohio State overall.
A lot of comeback wins this year.
A lot of comeback wins.
So you're going to go with as the national champs.
Let's see. Oh my gosh. I say it's meant to win. They're going to have to score an awful lot of points. TCU scores a lot of points. TCU almost won the game last.
Yeah.
They made a great comeback. Almost won it.
Yep.
Against Kansas State.
Right.
And they have a great quarterback, TCU. That guy does it all. He's a big, Heisman candidate. I see why he is.
Oh, yeah.
Great chance to win the
No
Heisman.
doubt.
That's how good he is.
No doubt.
NFL prospect, no question about it. Be a starting quarterback in the NFL somewhere next year, the year after that. I'm assuming he's a senior, might only be a sophomore or junior, that guy. I don't know. The TCU starting. I'll say the game will go overtime. Ohio State might pull it off. Maybe we'll say like 42-35 or something like that.
Wow. So Ohio State is going to be the national champs. Okay. Well, and here they were getting ready to shove Day out of town after losing to Michigan.
Which was ridiculous. That can happen to any coach.
Right.
It's one of those one halves that happen.
Well, but Ohio State had dominated against Michigan for years. All right. The Sugar Bowl, Alabama versus Kansas State. Alabama, as I mentioned, Nick Saban was saying, no, we deserve to be in the Final Four. That's not the case. Who wins between Alabama and Kansas State? Who do you like?
I'm gonna go with, what? Only because Alabama would rather be in the playoffs. No one's not blamed for that. They'd also rather be in the playoffs and not be in the playoffs, of course. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact they had 2 losses, Alabama had a really good year in their own, which they did. I have a hunch if Kansas State comes out there and doesn't allow, opportunities where TCU almost took the game from a big comfort behind win, Kansas State might pull that game off. I'll say it's going to have to be like, I'll say like 34-31, 30-35, something like
So
that.
Kansas State comes up with the. Is it the purple? Is that what it is? You're wearing the purple, the Kansas State purple? All right. Okay. In the Orange Bowl, two teams with lots of orange in their colors: Tennessee and Clemson. Who do you like?
Tennessee and Clemson. I'm going to go with Clemson. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that wasted no time with that one.
Clemson really should have won that one over Tennessee. Tennessee is very good. Yeah, they beat Alabama. Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
pretty good year, Tennessee.
Yeah, and then
They lost their starting their Heisman Trophy, candidate quarterback. He got down with an unfortunate injury.
Right.
Torn ACL. Very bad break for a guy to get through that. And
Okay. And then Penn State is going to the Rose Bowl, January 2nd against Utah, who knocked USC out of the playoffs. So who wins between Penn State and Utah?
the way Penn State's played overall this year, I think I'll pick Penn State to beat USC in the Rose Bowl.
Well, Utah.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, not Utah. I mean the Utah in the Rose Bowl.
Right.
An upset over Utah.
Okay. All right.
To beat Utah in the Rose Bowl.
I'm going to keep these on file and bring them out later. All right. On to the NFL real quick. Eagles right now are just playing phenomenal football. Have the number one seed in the NFC. Do they hold on and win the division?
Well, you know what? There's still, each team has played, 5 more games before the playoffs. Yeah, and it's a longer season in the NFL. It's a little bit different than college football, of course, a little bit longer, a year before the postseason starts.
And a lot of divisional games, too.
A lot of
The
divisional
Giants,
games,
Washington,
yeah,
and Dallas.
Yeah.
So do they win the division?
I like the Eagles' chance to win the division, provided they just win, I'll say, 3 or 4 of the last 5 regular season games is what they need to do.
Okay. All right. So they win the division. Do they represent the NFC in the Super Bowl?
Well, first, who would they?
Well,
they'd be playing first in the
Well, they would have
NFL divisional quarterfinals
as
of the NFC Championship.
They have the bye because right now
Right.
they have the bye.
Yeah.
You know, the Vikings right now, they clinched, so they're in. Seattle is in the hunt. Giants are in the hunt. 49ers are definitely in the hunt. And, of course, the Cowboys and Tampa Bay right now leads the division in the NFC South. So still a lot of things to be determined. But based on it as of right now, the way the Eagles have been playing and what you see, do the Eagles represent the NFC in the Super Bowl?
Well, if the Eagles play, they would have been playing, not fall apart, and just not caught looking ahead like they were when they played in Washington, Commanders that caught looking ahead there. Washington just ran all over them, beat them at home. I like the Eagles' chances. I think the Eagles will face, either the Cowboys or Vikings in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, okay. So
First.
even though the 49ers are really playing well and have the top defense, you're gonna say the Vikings or Cowboys?
I'm going to go with Philadelphia and Minnesota in the NFC Championship game. I think the Cowboys at least will go to the quarterfinals. At least that. Now, if Eagles play the Cowboys, if the Eagles playing Cowboys at home, the Eagles I like a chance to maybe pull that off and beat the Cowboys.
All right.
Tough, high-scoring game.
Let's quick jump
Cowboys
to
are great this year too. So are the Vikings.
Well, and they've already beaten the Vikings.
Right, and the 49ers, very good team.
Yep.
I'm not going to count them
Yep.
out by any means.
But
They're going to be good. They're going to playoffs for sure.
Garoppolo's
They're gonna
out
win
now,
one
though.
playoff game.
He's out for the rest of the year with a broken foot.
That's a tough
So,
break for 49ers. It's a shame. Yeah.
All right, so real quick in the AFC, Buffalo right now has the number one seed. Also in the running, believe it or not, the Jets, the Chiefs lead out in the West. The Dolphins have played well. Baltimore is on top and sharing the division with Cincinnati, and then you got the Titans. A lot of good teams in here. Who survives it? Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl?
First AFC Championship game teams, I think there'll be Buffalo Bills. The way Buffalo's playing, they might be destined to go to the Super Bowl and win the whole thing. They have a great team this year at Buffalo. And so are the Chiefs. They're a great team in their own right. So I'm going to say Bills face the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
Okay.
And I think Buffalo knocks them off this time in a very tough, high-scoring game.
Okay.
Two great quarterbacks, with Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, and of course, other guy with the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, so
out of UCLA.
You got the Bills going to the Super Bowl in the AFC. Who goes in the NFC between the Eagles and Vikings?
I say Eagles just get by the Vikings and get the Super Bowl.
Okay. Eagles and Bills in the Super Bowl.
Right.
One more. Who wins that then?
If the Eagles play like they played all year, very well, consistent, great football, absolutely. I didn't expect the Eagles to be undefeated. Not by any means. No, he plays so many games. College football's hard to go undefeated anymore, no matter how good a team is. We all know that.
So the Super Bowl champs.
I'm going to say that if the Eagles play the way they've been playing, just stay focused, don't fall apart for any means. Eagles win Super Bowl, say just by a touchdown, extra point. That's it.
Okay.
I'll say maybe like 31-24 or something, or 35-28, something like that.
That, believe it or not, is who I picked in the preseason to be in the Super Bowl. Very well. Good job,
Yeah.
Dick. All right. Okay. Well, that went fast. I'm going to keep this on file. We'll talk about it again next year, see how you did. So thanks for joining us. For Nick Dianastasis, I'm Eric May. You've been watching Inside Sports on LCTV 66.